The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched impossibly high, its crystalline walls shimmering with colors that human eyes had never seen before. James Reed stood at the center platform, trying to keep his composure as thousands of alien representatives watched from their floating platforms. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the holographic projector containing Earth's application for full council membership. The head counselor, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate metallic shell, spoke with a voice that echoed through both space and mind. Earth's representative may now present their credentials for council consideration. James cleared his throat. The weight of humanity's future rested on his shoulders. The past week had been filled with similar presentations from other species, displays of antimatter manipulation, faster-than-light travel achievements, and planetary terraforming capabilities. Now it was Earth's turn. "Honorable Council," James began, his voice steady despite his nerves, "I present to you humanity's breakthrough in dimensional physics, the 7D drive concept." He activated the holographic display, showing the complex calculations and theoretical frameworks that had taken Earth's best minds decades to develop. The laughter started slowly. It began with a few chuckles from the more humanoid species, then spread like a wave through the chamber. Even the crystalline beings, who rarely showed emotion, vibrated in what could only be described as amusement. "You propose to manipulate 7 dimensions." The head counselor's voice carried a tone of patronizing amusement. "Your species barely understands how to manipulate 4. You've only achieved basic space travel within your own system." James tried to continue. "Our research shows that human consciousness has unique properties that allow us to." More laughter interrupted him. A representative from the Starborn, ancient beings who had mastered space travel millions of years ago, floated down to the central platform. Their body glowed with internal starlight, making James feel small and primitive in comparison. "Young one," the Starborn spoke, each word dripping with condescension, "your species is barely 200,000 years old. We have been traveling between galaxies since before your ancestors learned to make fire. What you propose is impossible. The very fact that you believe it shows how little you understand about the universe." The holographic display flickered as James tried to show the experimental results, but the council members had already begun talking amongst themselves, dismissing Earth's presentation as a joke. Some were sending messages back to their worlds, likely sharing what they saw as amusing entertainment. "Perhaps," another counselor suggested, generating more laughter, "they should first learn to properly harness fusion power before attempting to bend reality itself." James stood there, face burning with humiliation. Years of human scientific achievement reduced to a galactic comedy show. The head counselor raised a glowing appendage, silencing the chamber. "Earth's application for full council membership is denied." The announcement came formally. "Furthermore, we recommend a period of supervised development. Clearly, your species needs guidance to understand its place in the galactic community." As James gathered his materials, trying to maintain whatever dignity he had left, the Starborn representative approached him again. "Do not be discouraged, young one. In a few thousand years, with proper oversight, your species might be ready to join us. Until then, focus on more achievable goals." James walked out of the chamber, the echoes of laughter following him down the crystalline corridors. But deep inside, beneath the humiliation and anger, he felt something else, a grim satisfaction. Let them laugh. Let them dismiss humanity as primitive children playing with forces beyond their understanding. They hadn't noticed his subtle scanning devices, recording their reactions, their technology, their dismissive certainty of their own superiority. And they certainly didn't know about Project Tesseract, hidden in Neptune's shadow, where humanity was about to prove just how wrong their assumptions were. As his shuttle departed the council station, James sent a coded message back to Earth. "Operation Hubris is green." They took the bait, proceeding to Phase 2. The laughter would stop soon enough. Humanity had learned long ago that being underestimated could be the greatest advantage of all. Hidden in the dark side of Neptune, where the giant planet's magnetic field created a perfect natural shield against detection. The research station, Tesseract, floated silently in space. Inside the main laboratory, engineer Marcus Stone watched streams of data flow across multiple holographic screens, his eyes reflecting the blue glow of the displays. The council took the bait, Admiral Lisa Gray said, entering the lab with a datapad in hand. Her uniform bore no official insignia. Tesseract didn't officially exist. James played his part perfectly. They think we're primitive children playing with toys we don't understand. Marcus smiled without looking away from his screens. Primitive children who just mapped their entire defense grid while they were busy laughing at us. He waved his hand, bringing up a new display showing the complex network of alien sensors and defense systems surrounding Earth. They're so confident in their superiority that they didn't even bother to hide their scanning frequencies. The laboratory hummed with energy as Marcus walked to the center of the room, where a device the size of a car engine floated in a containment field. Unlike the sleek, crystalline technology of the Council races, this machine looked almost crude with its exposed metal and visible working parts. But appearances, as humanity had learned, could be deceiving. "How's our baby doing today?" Lisa asked, approaching the device. "Better than expected," Marcus replied, pressing his hand against the containment field. The device responded immediately, pulsing with a soft light that seemed to bend in impossible ways. "The seventh-dimensional resonance is stable. We can maintain the field for up to 6 hours now." Lisa nodded, watching the device with pride. The aliens think dimensional manipulation requires millions of years of technological advancement. They never considered that the problem wasn't about technology at all. "It's about perception." Marcus finished her thought. While they spent millennia trying to brute force their way through dimensional barriers with machines, they'd missed the simple truth. Human consciousness naturally exists partially in higher dimensions. We just needed to build a device that could amplify that natural ability. A young technician rushed into the lab, her face excited. "Sir, ma'am, you need to see this. The test pilots. It's working better than we hoped." They followed her to the testing chamber, a massive room where 20 pilots sat in modified flight simulators. Each pilot wore a simple metal headband, the interface that connected their consciousness to the 7D drive prototype. "Watch this," the technician said, pointing to the main screen. On the display, a virtual spacecraft moved through a simulated space battle, but it didn't move like normal ships. It phased through solid objects, appeared in multiple places simultaneously, and performed maneuvers that seemed to ignore the laws of physics entirely. "They're not just controlling the ships," Marcus explained, his voice filled with wonder. "They're extending their consciousness through higher dimensions, seeing paths and possibilities that our alien friends think are impossible. And the best part," he grinned, "the pilots say it feels natural, like they're just reaching out with their minds." Lisa studied the combat simulation carefully. "How long until we can install the drive in an actual ship?" "The Prometheus is ready," Marcus replied. "We've been installing the drive for the past month. Commander Tom Wells has been running final checks on the systems. We just needed confirmation that the Council would dismiss us exactly as we predicted. And dismiss us they did," Lisa said, her expression hardening as she remembered the reports from the Council meeting. "They're sending a peacekeeping fleet to Earth, supposedly to help guide our development. Actually, they want to make sure we don't develop any technology they haven't approved." Marcus turned to her, his eyes serious. "Then it's time. The Prometheus can be ready for launch in 24 hours. Let's show our advanced friends what primitive humans can really do." As they spoke, the device in the main lab pulsed again, its light bending in ways that human eyes shouldn't have been able to see. But they could see it, just as they could sense the higher dimensions that the Council races thought were beyond human comprehension. Soon, very soon, the laughter would stop, and the galaxy would learn that sometimes the simplest species could see what the most advanced ones had missed for millions of years. Commander Tom Wells stood at the viewport of the Prometheus, watching Neptune's swirling storms below. The ship looked ordinary from the outside, deliberately so. Its hull bore the basic design of Earth's early space vessels, complete with visible thrusters and antenna arrays, but looks could be deceiving. "Commander," his communications officer called out, "Message from Earth Command. Priority 1. Tom turned from the viewport, his expression grim. The message appeared on his personal screen, and his jaw tightened as he read it. The starborn fleet had just passed Mars' orbit, 50 ships strong, each one capable of destroying a small moon. "They're not even trying to hide their intentions anymore," his second-in-command said, reading over his shoulder. "A peaceful demonstration of advanced technology doesn't require that many warships." Tom nodded slowly. "Pull up the fleet scan." The main screen lit up with a detailed view of the approaching alien vessels. They were beautiful in a terrifying way. Ships made of crystalline materials that seemed to bend light around them, powered by engines that tapped into the quantum fabric of space itself. By conventional standards, humanity had no chance against such advanced technology. But humanity had stopped playing by conventional standards. "All hands," Tom's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. "Battle stations. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." The Prometheus came alive with activity. In the engine room, engineers prepared the 7D drive, its crude exterior housing technology that would make the Starborn's quantum engines look like steam engines in comparison. A new message flashed across Tom's screen. The Starborn flagship was broadcasting to every human settlement in the solar system. "People of Earth," the alien voice carried that familiar tone of condescension. "We come in peace to guide your species toward proper development. Your recent attempts to explore forbidden technologies have shown us that you require supervision. Submit to our oversight, and we will share appropriate knowledge when you are ready. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate why these restrictions exist." Tom watched his crew's faces. There was no fear, only determined concentration. They had trained for this moment for years. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "their fleet is moving into standard containment formation. They're positioning ships to cover every possible escape vector." "Every possible conventional escape vector," Tom corrected with a slight smile. "Status of the 7D drive." "Drive is hot, sir. Engineers report all systems nominal. The consciousness interface is ready for activation." Tom took his command chair and placed the neural interface band around his head. Across the ship, every crew member did the same. The moment the bands activated, Tom's perception expanded. He could see everything. The higher dimensions that the aliens thought impossible to access opened up before his mind like new colors in a previously black and white world. "Sir," communications called out again. "New message from the Starborn flagship. They're demanding our immediate surrender. They say," she paused, anger crossing her face, "they say they detected our cute attempt at building advanced drives, and they're here to confiscate any dangerous technology for our own protection." Tom closed his eyes, feeling the ship's systems through the neural interface. The 7D drive hummed in his consciousness, ready to show the galaxy what humanity could really do. "Send them our response," he ordered. "Sir, what response?" "Send them exactly what James sent from the council meeting, word for word." The communications officer grinned as she pulled up the message. "Operation Hubris is green. Proceeding to Phase 2. On the main screen, the Starborn fleet grew larger as they approached Earth. Their ships moved with absolute confidence, their commanders probably already drafting reports about how easily they had contained another primitive species. "All hands," Tom's voice was steady and clear, "prepare for dimensional shift. Let's show our advanced friends what the primitives can do." The 7D drive pulsed once, and the Prometheus began to change. Not on the outside. It still looked like a primitive human vessel, but in dimensions that the Starborn couldn't even perceive, the ship was becoming something else entirely. The time for hiding was over. The time for laughter was ending. and the galaxy was about to learn why you should never underestimate a species that could think in 7 dimensions. The starborn fleet hung in space like a wall of crystalline stars, their ships forming a perfect blockade between Earth and the rest of the solar system. On their command channels, officers shared jokes about the primitive human vessel that dared to approach them. Some even took bets on how quickly the humans would surrender once they demonstrated their superior technology. The Prometheus drifted out of Neptune's shadow, its conventional engines glowing with simple fusion power. To the advanced sensors of the starborn fleet, it looked absurdly basic, like a child's drawing compared to their works of art. Final warning, human vessel. The starborn commander's voice echoed through space. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Your attempted recreation of advanced technology must be contained before you harm yourselves. Inside the Prometheus, Commander Tom Wells sat perfectly still in his command chair, the neural interface band cool against his forehead. Through it, he could feel every crew member's consciousness linked to the ship, their minds extending into dimensions that the aliens couldn't even imagine. "All stations report ready, sir," his second-in-command said quietly. "The 7D drive is at full power." Tom opened his eyes. "Send to all crew. Remember your training. What you're about to experience will feel strange, but trust your instincts. Human minds were built for this. We just never knew it until now." The starborn flagship launched a containment field, a net of energy that could capture and hold any known form of matter. Their sensors showed the human ship making no attempt to raise shields or power weapons. Several alien officers laughed at what they saw as a display of primitive helplessness. "Now," Tom commanded. The 7D drive activated. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The Prometheus still looked the same, but then it shifted, not in normal space, but in ways that made the starborn sensors scream with impossible readings. The human ship was in front of the fleet, then behind it, then above it, then in multiple places at once. The containment field passed straight through it, as if trying to catch a shadow. Impossible. The starborn commander's voice lost its condescending tone. "Their ship is. It's moving through dimensional layers we can't even detect." Inside the Prometheus, the crew felt it all. Through the neural interface, they could see the higher dimensions as clearly as they could see normal space. The ship wasn't just moving through space. It was flowing through reality itself, guided by human consciousness that naturally extended into these higher planes. "Status report," Tom called out, his mind swimming with the beauty of 7-dimensional space. "All systems nominal, sir," his engineer reported with a laugh. "The aliens are going crazy trying to figure out what we're doing. Their sensors can't even track us properly." The Prometheus danced through the starborn fleet, passing through their impenetrable shields like they weren't even there. Each time the aliens adjusted their sensors to track the ship in one dimension, it simply shifted to another. "Sir," communications called out, "we're receiving thousands of messages from the alien fleet. They're asking how we're doing this." Tom smiled. "Send them the technical specifications of our drive. The basic ones we showed at the council meeting. Let them try to understand." The response was immediate. The starborn scientists who had laughed at the primitive designs now pored over them in shock. The equations were simple, childishly simple by their standards, but they worked in ways that should have been impossible. "They're powering up weapons," Tactical reported calmly. "Let them," Tom replied. "Show them what else we can do." As the alien fleet opened fire, the Prometheus shifted again. Their advanced energy weapons passed through 7 dimensions of empty space, while the human ship existed simultaneously in dozens of positions that all turned out to be false. The laughter had stopped. In its place was silence. The silence of an advanced civilization, realizing that they had badly underestimated the species they had dismissed as primitive. And this was just the beginning of what humanity could do. The starborn flagship's command center was in chaos. Officers who had maintained perfect composure for centuries now moved frantically between stations, trying to understand what their sensors were telling them. The human ship simply couldn't be doing what it was doing, yet it was. Analyze this. The Starborn commander threw the technical specifications across the neural network to his science team. How are these primitives achieving dimensional manipulation with such basic technology? Where are their quantum matrices, their reality anchors, their dimensional stabilizers? On the main display, the Prometheus continued its impossible dance through space. The ship would appear solid, then transparent, then exist in multiple locations simultaneously. It moved through barriers of energy and matter as if they weren't there. Its crude design somehow housing technology that surpassed millions of years of starborn advancement. High Commander, a science officer called out, her crystalline form vibrating with distress. We've analyzed their drive design 10 times. It's not the technology that's doing this. The device they built is just an amplifier. An amplifier for what? Their consciousness. The command center fell silent. The High Commander floated closer to the display, watching the human vessel phase through another set of unbeatable defenses. Impossible, he whispered. Their brains are primitive, basic. We've studied them. They barely use a fraction of their neural capacity. The science officer brought up new scans. Sir, we were wrong. We were measuring their neural activity only in the dimensions we could perceive. Their consciousness naturally extends into higher dimensions. They don't need complex technology to manipulate higher dimensions because they already exist partially within them. On the human ship, Commander Tom Wells could sense the aliens' confusion through the higher dimensions. The neural interface let him and his crew perceive the Starborn's attempts to understand what they were seeing. It was like watching children try to understand how a bird could fly by studying only its shadow. Sir, his communications officer reported, the Starborn are requesting a direct communication link. Their High Commander wants to speak with you personally. Tom nodded. Put them through. The High Commander's image appeared on the main screen. Gone was the condescending smile, replaced by an expression of genuine awe. How long? The alien leader asked simply. How long have your people been able to do this? We've always been able to do it, Tom replied calmly. We just didn't know we could. Your people spent millions of years trying to force your way into higher dimensions through technology. We simply learned to use what was already there. The silence that followed was deafening. Across the alien fleet, sensors continued to record data that their most advanced theories said was impossible. The human ship existed in states that broke every rule of dimensional physics, rules that the Starborn had thought were absolute. Your species, the High Commander spoke slowly, achieved in decades what we couldn't achieve in millions of years, because you didn't know it was supposed to be impossible. Tom smiled. Sometimes the advantage of being primitive is that you don't know what you can't do. While your people were laughing at our simple technology, you never thought to look at how our minds work differently than yours. The Prometheus shifted again, this time appearing simultaneously at every point in a sphere around the alien fleet. Through the neural interface, Tom could feel his crew's satisfaction. Every position was real. Every location existed. The ship was everywhere at once, proving that humanity's grasp of dimensional physics far exceeded anything the Starborn had imagined possible. The Council, the High Commander began. We'll need to reconsider many things, Tom finished for him, starting with their definition of what makes a species advanced. As the alien fleet hung motionless in space, their weapons powered down, their commanders realizing that everything they had believed about their superiority had just been proven wrong. Earth's sun rose behind them. Its light caught the Prometheus in all its positions, making it shine like a constellation of human achievement. The age of being underestimated was over. The real question was, what would humanity do next? The emergency session of the Galactic Council looked very different from the one where they had laughed at humanity just days ago. Gone were the amused smirks and condescending glances. Instead, thousands of alien representatives watched in stunned silence as engineer Marcus Stone explained exactly how humanity had achieved the impossible. "The fundamental flaw in your approach," Marcus said, standing confidently at the center platform, "was assuming that dimensional manipulation required overcoming consciousness limitations. You built increasingly complex machines to force your way through dimensional barriers because you thought your minds couldn't perceive them naturally." The holographic display showed the surprisingly simple design of the 7D drive, where the aliens expected to see complex quantum matrices and reality anchors. They instead saw a consciousness amplifier that looked almost primitive by their standards. "But human consciousness," Marcus continued, "never evolved with those limitations. Our minds naturally extend into higher dimensions. We just never knew it because we were too busy trying to copy your advanced technology." The head counselor, their energy form flickering with agitation, spoke up. "How did we miss this? We study human brains extensively." Marcus smiled. "You studied our brains the same way you study everything else. Through the lens of your own advancement. You looked for the same neural patterns your species developed over millions of years. But our brains work differently. We don't need to force our way into higher dimensions because we already exist partially within them." He brought up new data, showing human neural activity across multiple dimensional planes. The council chamber filled with murmurs as the representatives realized the implications. Humanity hadn't broken the rules of physics. They'd simply understood them better. "Your civilization spent millions of years developing technology to compensate for what you saw as biological limitations," Marcus explained. "But sometimes being primitive means you find a simpler way. We didn't know we couldn't manipulate higher dimensions, so we just did it." The starborn representative, who had once mocked Earth's presentation, floated forward. "The Prometheus, it wasn't using advanced technology to move through dimensions." "No," Marcus confirmed. "The ship's technology simply amplified what human consciousness could already do. Every crew member could naturally perceive and manipulate higher dimensions. The 7D drive just gave them the tools to extend that ability to the ship itself." Displays around the chamber showed footage of the Prometheus's demonstration. The ship's seemingly impossible movements now made sense. It wasn't the technology doing the impossible, but rather human minds working with natural abilities the aliens had never imagined possible. "And now," Marcus said, his voice carrying across the silent chamber, "we're willing to teach others. Your species spent millions of years trying to force the universe to work your way. We can show you how to work with it instead." The council erupted in discussion. Species that had looked down on humanity now spoke eagerly about collaboration. The head counselor raised their glowing appendage for silence. "Engineer Stone," they said, their tone now respectful, "humanity has achieved something unprecedented. You've shown us that true advancement isn't always about building more complex technology. Sometimes it's about understanding ourselves better." Marcus nodded. "That's why we let you laugh at us. Why we presented our technology in a way you would dismiss. While you were busy mocking our primitive understanding, you never noticed that we were studying how your minds worked, or rather, how they didn't work with higher dimensions." The chamber was silent again as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just developed new technology. They had fundamentally changed how species would approach dimensional physics. Millions of years of assumed superiority had been overturned by a primitive species that simply didn't know what they couldn't do. As Marcus prepared to begin the first lesson in human-style dimensional perception, he couldn't help but smile. The laughter had stopped, but something better had replaced it. The beginning of true cooperation between species who finally understood that advancement didn't always mean what they thought it meant. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of irony after all. 1 year after the Prometheus demonstration, Earth's orbital space had transformed. Ships from across the galaxy hovered in carefully coordinated patterns, their crews learning to see the universe as humans did. The sight would have been intimidating once. Now it was a symbol of cooperation. In the newly constructed Dimensional Academy floating above the Pacific Ocean, James Reed walked through halls filled with aliens of all species. Some were physical beings, others pure energy, but all were here to learn from the species they had once mocked as primitive. "The next batch of students is ready," his assistant informed him. "They're particularly excited about today's practical demonstration." James entered the observation deck, where hundreds of alien students watched Earth's newest vessel, the Discovery, prepare for its training mission. Unlike the deliberately crude-looking Prometheus, this ship embraced both human insight and alien aesthetics. Its hull shimmered with crystalline patterns, while housing the simple but revolutionary human dimensional technology. "Today," James addressed the gathered students, "you'll see what happens when we combine your advanced materials with our natural dimensional perception. Discovery, you're clear to proceed." The ship's captain, Lisa Gray, had been promoted after the success of Project Tesseract. Through the neural interface, she commanded Discovery to demonstrate the full potential of combined human and alien technology. The ship didn't just phase through dimensions like Prometheus had. It flowed between them like water, creating patterns in reality that even humans had never imagined possible. The alien students watched in awe as their own advanced sensor systems, now modified to detect higher dimensional activity, showed them what their minds were slowly learning to perceive. "The key," James explained to his students, "isn't forcing the universe to behave as you think it should. It's understanding how it already works and adapting yourself to it. Humanity didn't succeed because we were smarter or more advanced. We succeeded because we were willing to question everything we thought we knew." In orbit above Mars, Marcus Stone supervised the construction of the first joint human-alien research facility. Teams of scientists from 100 worlds worked together, combining millions of years of alien technical knowledge with humanity's unique perspective. "The prototype is ready," his alien assistant, a being of pure thought contained in a crystalline shell, reported. "It's the first ship designed from the ground up with both our technologies and your insights." The vessel that emerged from the construction dock looked like nothing either humanity or the Council races had built before. It incorporated the best of both approaches, alien precision and human intuition, advanced materials and simple principles, technological power and natural ability. Tom Wells, now Admiral Wells, watched from the Prometheus as the new ship took its first flight. His crew, a mixture of humans and aliens, felt the familiar sensation of their consciousness extending through the neural interface. But now, the alien crew members could feel it too. Slowly, guided by human teachers, they were learning to access abilities their species had always possessed, but never knew how to use. Back on Earth, in the reformed Galactic Council's new headquarters in Geneva, representatives from all species discussed the future. The hierarchy that had existed for millions of years, based on technological advancement and age, had been replaced by something new. A system that valued different kinds of wisdom equally. "The universe," the head counselor addressed the assembly, "is larger than any one species' understanding of it. We spent millions of years believing that advancement meant making things more complex. Humanity showed us that sometimes the most advanced solution is the simplest one, not because it's primitive, but because it's fundamentally correct." Above them, ships of all designs moved through space, their crews learning to see reality through new eyes. The laughter that had once greeted humanity's ideas was gone, replaced by a deep appreciation for what different perspectives could teach. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, other young species were taking their first steps toward the stars. The galaxy waited to welcome them, not with mockery, but with the understanding that every civilization, no matter how young or different, had something valuable to teach. The age of arrogance was over. The age of true cooperation had begun. And it all started because humanity didn't know that they couldn't do the impossible.